The earth shook, buildings swayed, and in an instant, life in Myanmar changed forever. On March 28, 2025, at 12:50 p.m. local time, a massive earthquake tore through the heart of the nation. Registering a staggering 7.7 on the Richter scale, the quake's epicenter was 16 kilometers northwest of Sagaing. This ancient city, known for its pagodas and monasteries, bore the brunt of the earthquake's fury. The ground shook violently for what seemed like an eternity, but was likely closer to a minute. People ran into the streets, desperate to escape collapsing buildings. Dust filled the air, obscuring the midday sun and casting an eerie pall over everything. A wave of panic swept through the nation as the initial shock subsided and the true scale of the disaster began to emerge. The earthquake's impact was felt far beyond Sagaing. Tremors rippled outward, reaching as far as Thailand, southern China, and Laos. In Bangkok, Thailand's capital, a skyscraper under construction crumbled, claiming the lives of at least 9 people. The quake served as a stark reminder of the immense power of nature and the fragility of human life. As the dust settled, a grim reality began to set in. The earthquake had left a trail of death and destruction across Myanmar. The official death toll, released by the Myanmar military government, stood at 144. However, the US Geological Survey painted a far more dire picture, estimating that fatalities could reach into the thousands. Hospitals, overwhelmed by the sheer number of casualties, struggled to cope. In Mandalay, the Mandalay General Hospital was forced to treat patients in its parking lot. Medical supplies dwindled and the injured faced agonizing waits for treatment. Reports from the hardest-hit areas painted a grim picture. Mo Saidana, a local charity, recovered at least 60 bodies in Pima. In Amarapura, a suburb of Mandalay, 30 bodies were pulled from the wreckage of collapsed apartments. The true scale of the tragedy was still unfolding. The earthquake had reshaped the landscape of Myanmar, leaving behind a trail of destruction that stretched for miles. Buildings lay in ruins, bridges had crumbled, and roads were impassable, choked with debris. The once familiar landscape was now a scene of utter devastation. In Sagaing, a 90-year-old bridge, a vital artery for the region, collapsed into the Irrawaddy River. Sections of the Mandalay-Yangon Highway, a critical transportation route, were also destroyed. The earthquake had severed vital lifelines, cutting off communities and hampering relief efforts. Cultural treasures, some dating back centuries, were not spared. In Pindaya, renowned for its ancient cave temples, century-old stupas were reduced to rubble. In Mandalay, a monastery collapsed, trapping dozens of monks inside. The earthquake had not only claimed lives, but also erased irreplaceable pieces of Myanmar's cultural heritage. As the initial shock subsided, rescue workers and volunteers from across Myanmar and beyond sprang into action. They faced a daunting task: to locate survivors trapped beneath the rubble, provide medical aid to the injured, and deliver essential supplies to those in need. Time was of the essence. Rescue workers, many of whom had lost their own homes and loved ones, toiled tirelessly, digging through the rubble with their bare hands, desperate to find signs of life. Sniffer dogs were brought in to help locate survivors, their keen sense of smell offering a glimmer of hope in the midst of despair. However, the scale of the disaster was overwhelming. The Myanmar military junta, which had seized power in a 2021 coup, appealed for international assistance. They acknowledged that their resources were stretched thin and that they desperately needed help to cope with the disaster. Section 5, the world responds. International aid pours in. The international community responded swiftly to Myanmar's plea for help. Nations put aside political differences and pledged their support, offering aid and expertise to assist in the relief effort. Humanity, it seemed, transcended political divides in times of crisis. The United States, under President Trump, announced immediate assistance, including the deployment of USAID disaster experts and the provision of essential aid such as food, water, and medical supplies. The United Nations, led by Secretary General Antonio Guterres, mobilized its resources, allocating an initial $5 million for emergency operations. India, a close neighbor of Myanmar, offered its support, with Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressing his condolences and pledging to provide whatever assistance was needed. The European Union confirmed that its Copernicus satellites, equipped with advanced imaging technology, were being used to assist first responders in assessing the damage and coordinating relief efforts. Section 6. Local heroes, Myanmar and Thailand mobilize for recovery. While international aid poured in, the people of Myanmar and Thailand demonstrated remarkable resilience and compassion. Ordinary citizens, many of whom had lost everything, stepped up to help their neighbors, offering food, shelter and comfort to those in need. In Myanmar, the military junta declared a state of emergency in the capital, Naypyidaw, and in Mandalay, the country's second-largest city. Despite the political turmoil that had gripped the nation, the government and its opponents seemed united in their determination to help the victims of the earthquake. In Thailand, Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra declared a state of emergency in Bangkok, the capital, and held an urgent meeting with government officials to coordinate the response to the disaster. The Thai people, known for their generosity and hospitality, opened their homes to those who had lost their homes. Section 7. A nation in crisis. The earthquake's impact on Myanmar's political and social landscape. The earthquake struck Myanmar at a time when the nation was already grappling with a multitude of challenges. The military coup of 2021 had plunged the country into political turmoil, sparking widespread protests and a brutal crackdown by the junta. The earthquake exacerbated an already dire humanitarian crisis. Over 3 million people were internally displaced due to the ongoing conflict, and the earthquake only added to their plight, forcing many to flee their homes once more. The healthcare system, already strained by the conflict and the COVID-19 pandemic, was pushed to the brink of collapse. The earthquake also raised concerns about the stability of large-scale infrastructure projects, including dams, which were now at risk of collapse due to the tremors. The potential for further devastation loomed large, adding to the sense of uncertainty and fear that gripped the nation. Section 8. Voices from the rubble, eyewitness accounts of fear and survival. Amidst the destruction and despair, the voices of survivors offered a glimpse into the terror and chaos of that fateful day. They spoke of the ground shaking, buildings collapsing, and the desperate scramble for safety. Their stories served as a poignant reminder of the human cost of the disaster. In Bangkok, Tommy Walker, a reporter for Deutsche Welle, described the panic that gripped the city as the tremors hit. People were running out of buildings, screaming, he said. I evacuated my apartment and could see others doing the same. It was a very frightening experience. In Mandalay, residents reported widespread destruction and fires raging through the city. Everything is destroyed, said one resident who spoke on condition of anonymity. There are fires everywhere. We are sleeping outside because we are too afraid to go back inside. Section 9. The long road ahead, rebuilding lives and communities. As the immediate crisis began to subside, the long and arduous task of rebuilding shattered lives and communities lay ahead. The earthquake had left an indelible mark on Myanmar and Thailand, testing the resilience of their people and the capacity of their governments to respond effectively. The road to recovery would be long and challenging. Rebuilding homes, schools, hospitals, and critical infrastructure would require a sustained commitment from the international community and the governments of Myanmar and Thailand. The psychological scars of the disaster would likely take years, if not generations, to heal. The earthquake served as a stark reminder of the importance of disaster preparedness, the interconnectedness of our world, and the power of human compassion in the face of adversity. As the people of Myanmar and Thailand began the long process of rebuilding, the world watched, offered its support, and prayed for their recovery.